Hello and welcome, this is Ben from PRB, and this is my review of Untitled Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game is out now on Nintendo Switch and on PC via the Epic Games Store. It's currently retailing for about $17.99 in the UK on the Nintendo Switch and about $15.99 on the Epic Games Store. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe on the way down, it would mean a lot. And hey, if you didn't like it, then let me know, give me a comment down below, let me know how I can improve and what you would like to see next time. So let's get on to the review. So first up, let's talk a little bit about what the game actually is. Basically, in this game, you play the titular character of the goose, and you are basically here to just ruin everyone's day, to be mischievous, to cause mayhem, and just don't leave anything where you find it. Just move everything around. The game is very physics-based. Most things you can pick up, you can move around, you can also interact with a lot of different items as well. You almost have this kind of shopping list of tasks to do that just guides the player through the different areas and just giving you some suggestions on some things you can do. I think without it, it would be truly like a sandbox experience where you could do anything. But I think having the checklist, it does really aid the game by just giving you some kind of direction and some kind of, not necessarily hand-holding, but it is just giving you those steps of, hey, drag the rake into the lake. And there's different ways you can do that. There's also certain ways that you can only do some things. So whether that's making the farmer hit his finger with the hammer and stuff like that, there's certain ways to get that done. It basically gives you the kind of little tasks that you can work through. And look, this game is not super hard. We're not talking Dark Souls or anything like that. It is a quick jaunt. It's probably a game you can complete over the weekend. It's, between 5 and 8 hours, depending on how much you explore, how much you want to breeze through it. One big level, essentially. So there are different sections, and once you complete the task lists within each section, you can move through into the next section, and then you get a new task list, and it's a new area with new items and stuff like that. And they all loop back round, so you can unlock little gates to shortcuts back to previous areas where you visited before. But once you've done all of those, there's then some end game content, which gives you reason to go back to the earlier areas, some other tasks that you can try and do some different stuff and things like that, which is really, really cool. But that is it. So there's no other areas, there's no other towns or villages or locales that you can go and visit. And I think this might be, if it's on their agenda to do like DLC, or, if they're seeing what the demand is like and people want more of this, could always release another area as like DLC or something like that, or maybe this would be what Untitled Goose Game 2. So that said, the game is very physics based. You can pick things up with your beak. That's the primary gameplay element there. You can do a low grab and you can do a high grab, and basically in each area there is a list of things that you've got to collect, and they're hidden throughout that area. And so they could be like from a toothbrush to a radio to a thermos to a bra even. You've got to nick from someone's washing line. So there's a whole assortment of items you can pick up. Some are for the objective, some are just for you to just see what happens with the world, how the villagers react to you picking up certain items. And there is that kind of dark, kind of slapstick comedy to this at the same time. And I know that is just I know that those two things are quite at odds, a slapstick and a dark humor. It's slapstick because the audio, which I'll get onto in a bit, it just works so well at having this kind of the piano music as you're getting chased by the villagers and things like that. As you're sneaking up on people, it's got that great soundtrack there that just accompanies the mischief that you are getting up to as the goose. But at the same time, there's this slightly dark kind of humor where you can literally untie this kid's shoelaces while he's running, nick his glasses, swap him out for a pair of other glasses. You can take his airplane and drop it off at the market, and then he has to go and buy it back from the woman because she won't believe that it is his own plane. So you've basically made him buy his own plane. There's a whole load of different things here where you can basically just ruin people's day and be a bit of a dick. And that's kind of what the whole aim of the game is. It's almost like a simulator of how to just be as annoying as possible if you were a goose. And it works incredibly well. I mean, the game plays spectacularly on a performance level. I've had no issues. I've played it on the Nintendo Switch. I played it docked and undocked, and it performed flawlessly. There were no frame rate stutters. There were no bugs or things where I got stuck or couldn't progress, no crashes or anything like that. So it's a really polished game as well. It's something where there's obviously been a lot of time and care that has gone into this, and it really shows with the final presentation. In terms of visuals, the visuals are this gorgeous kind of pastel look. It's almost cel shaded, but it's more of this nice quaint pastel colors, and everything's very nice and clean. You know, you've got good shadows as well, so it adds that depth when you're looking at the different game worlds and stuff. And the camera moves really well to be able to show you an overview of, you know, more than what the goose would normally be able to see. So it gives you that tactical level to really cause even more mischief and mayhem than if it was a super close camera. So let's start with the voices. There's none. No voices, so let's move on. Sound effects. There are plenty of little sound effects from when you're swimming to the honking of the goose itself. Yes, that could maybe be counted as a voice, as a voice actor. You've got the honking of the goose. You've got the flat-footed slaps as he's running across the floor. The things that he's dropping and picking up. Because it is a physics-based game, there are so many little sound effects accompanied with the things you're carrying. If you're honking while you're carrying something, it sounds different. If you stick the beak into a drain pipe and honk, it echoes, or into the bin, it creates this tinny effect. So it's very aware of where you are and when you're pressing the honk button, for instance, to what type of sound is going to be created. So it's very clever there. They could have just slapped just a generic sound effect on it, push the button to make the sound, but it does a really good job of just making sure it's context sensitive there as well. But the music here is one of the things that really surprised me, and is one of the things that I prefer most about this game. It really shines, is this piano music. Is really simple at its core, but it's used to an amazing effect really organically as well. So obviously there aren't really any scripted moments in the sense of, you know, you have to go here at this certain point in the game. You can do any of the checklists in order normally within that certain section, and the game doesn't know when you're going to do it. So it's as you start to sneak up behind someone, or you've nicked an important item or something where they've spotted you taking it, the piano just starts playing this slapstick chase me round melody, which just adds a little bit of that comedic value, but also a bit of suspense of, oh, they're catching up, because pretty much everyone is quicker than you, so they can catch up to you if you don't have enough of a distance between them, which will force you to drop the item. It's quite nice because although there is that suspense, and it still has that, it doesn't lose that kind of element of suspense, or, oh god, I'm gonna drop it, or anything like that. There's no consequence. You can't die. There's no game over. Or anything like that. All that happens is you are forced to drop the item, they pick the item up, and they normally put it back to where it was found originally. But the music tracks, it just works so well. It will just start building up slowly, it will have these really fast-paced sections, and then it will sometimes just be silence. There just won't be any music at all, and it will just be the sound of your goose honking through this small, quiet little village while people are going about their day, doing these little bit of actions and things like that, making these sounds, making the small incidental sounds that happen. So the sound design is really, really good here. It was a particular highlight and a joy to listen to while playing. So how fun is this game? So, like I said, it's a little bit more on the short side, 4 to 8 hours, depending on how quick you blaze through it. I think, you know, if you steamed through it and got everything first try, you can probably do this close to the 4-hour mark. There is some end-game content, like I mentioned before, so you can absolutely go back through and do some other bits and pieces. There's no real difficulties or anything like that, so it is one of those things where there's only going to be so much replayability once you've completed everything. But I think the price point reflects that. And I think the production values of a game this, like, for a game to be this polished and just well thought out at a $17.99 price point on the Nintendo Switch, working amazingly, docked or undocked, it's just something that, you know, is a really good feat. It's a really good achievement here. But ultimately, it's the checklists that keep it quite streamlined. I think you could spend a lot more in here if you didn't know what you had to do. The checklists do, to some extent, make it a lot more of a, oh, I've got to do this before I can go to the next area. Yes, you've got to do certain things in certain orders to be able to check them all off, and some are more complicated than others. And so I think it does give a good direction to the game. but I appreciate some people might have preferred it to have just been a blank simulator of sorts where you could do anything and you had to figure everything out for yourself. And I think that potentially would have added a couple of hours onto the game, because there would have been a lot more experimenting. One of the objectives is to drag the rake into the lake. If you didn't have that as an objective, would you have done that normally, or how long would it have taken you to have come up to do that originally? So there's pros and cons on that side of things. I personally do like that it's got that checklist, because it does create a bit more of things to do, rather than just, hey, you're a goose, now go do what you want. But ultimately, I had a lot of fun with this game. It was enjoyable, charming. The music was really, really good. The piano soundtrack is just phenomenal and really, really well done. And there's just that quaint kind of character and comedic value with just some of the things you can get up to, some of the things you can cause. It's nothing gory. There's no huge violence or anything like that. You get chased away with a broom, or you make a farmer bang his thumb on while hammering in a sign that says no geese allowed. It's those kind of tongue-in-cheek moments, and it really just adds to the overall package here. I think for $17.99 or $15.99 on the Epic Store as it is currently, you can't really go wrong. I'd definitely say this is a buy. Bags of charm. And hey, it is coming to Xbox One and PS4 apparently in the near future. No time frames on that, but I saw an article from the developers there saying that there were plans to do that. So that's all from me. If you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe and the notification bell for the next video. Really, really does help. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.